Hey guys, Amanda here from Get a Life at Sea, and this is a super special interview that I get to do with a current crew member, Anita Wing Lee of AnitaWingLee.com. And if you guys want to check out more crew interviews that I've done over the last month or so, I've actually been doing quite a few via Facebook live stream on the Get a Life at Sea Facebook page. So if you haven't already, head on over to the Facebook page for Get a Life at Sea and like the page and also subscribe to my live streams so that you can be notified when I go live with a crew member and you can ask your questions right to them at the time. Super exciting. So also, of course, be sure to check out the Get a Life at Sea website at getalifeatsea.com and also take the free Are You Ready for a Life at Sea quiz at getalifeatsea.com/cruise ship quiz. And also, as a side note, Anita of AnitaWingLee.com is a really special person that's actually been traveling the world for over 5 years using a variety of methods. And she either gets paid to travel or she travels for free. And one of those ways was, of course, working on cruise ships, but she actually has an upcoming workshop happening on November 27th, 2016. And you can sign up for that online at bit.ly/yes to travel. And I will definitely be listening in on the webinar. It's going to be full of great information, so be sure to check that out if you are interested in how to either get paid to travel or travel for free. And I hope you guys enjoyed this particular crew interview with Anita, and we're going to get started in just a sec. Hey guys, welcome to the broadcast and welcome to the replay and welcome to this super special interview with the one and only Anita Wing Lee. Yeah! Yeah, and Dawn's already in. Yeah. We've got lots of awesome people popping in. Welcome, welcome. It's, I get to interview Anita. Not my first time, but it's gonna be an awesome time. So welcome, welcome guys. If you are just joining, my name is Amanda and I'm a cruise ship employment specialist. I worked on cruise ships for a decade and then went into cruise ship employment and recruitment services for another 5 years after that. Last year, I started my own company called getalifeatsea.com, where now I help adventurers just like you get paid to travel the world. So welcome, welcome. This is super exciting. We're going to be talking to Anita Wing Lee all about her experience working on board cruise ships, specifically Princess, and we're going to be talking ship. That's going to be my new hashtag talking ship. So welcome guys, and I'll over to Anita. Anita will say hi, and do you want to intro yourself too for anyone who's new to you?
Yeah, for sure. Hey guys, and it's always a pleasure to get to catch up with Amanda, so thanks Amanda so much for having me on. So for those of you who are new to me, my name is Anita Wing Lee. I've been traveling the world off and on for the last 5 years. Every couple of months I've spent another couple of months somewhere abroad and been to over 28 countries or so. And last year I ended up deciding to work on a cruise ship for a bit, and Amanda and I have been friends for like probably 2 years now, and so I always knew that she helped people find cruise ship jobs. And since my early days, getting paid to travel the world, like I've done all kinds of things, everything from teaching English to being freelance designer to like doing research for universities to government grants, all kinds of stuff. So every single time I've traveled, I've pretty much either had all expenses paid or the trip covered some way or another. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I like to share my journey and how I did it, because it wasn't just one way, it was multiple ways. But traveling on cruise ships and getting paid to do that was something I heard about from my early days, right? Everyone's probably heard about Teach English to travel, and then cruise ship is another one of those things that everyone's heard about. But very few people have done it, and then there's also a lot of really sketchy information online. Like as soon as I Googled it, that was one of the first things that was like, watch out for the scams. And I've actually talked to people who have been scammed before too. So I just kind of put that on the back burner. I was like, I don't know how to do that. I'll figure out other ways to get paid to travel, which I have done. And then I was in Canada for about a year and a half, and I wanted to get back out into the world again and not just talk about travel, but really do it myself. So guys up and be like, hey, what was that about helping people find cruise ship jobs? So last August, I did a 5-week seasonal contract with Princess Cruises, and I'm still in their system if I ever wanted to work with them again, which is really cool. I went to Alaska and did the Alaska room multiple times, got to see the fjords, got my first painting done by the one and only Mr. A. Singh of one of my scopes in the fjords back in the day when he was painting people's scopes. And then I also got to spend time in Mexico on the cruise ship. So it was a really, really cool experience. There's definitely like advantages, disadvantages, which we're going to talk about today, but it's a really good experience overall, and I'm happy to share any tips on how to rock a time at sea.
And if you're new to me, hi, welcome. I'm Amanda from Get a Life at Sea, and I help people get paid to travel the world working on cruise ships, because I did so for over a decade and then was in recruitment and then started my own biz. So, you know, I myself was able to travel around the world, and I've been to every continent in the world except Antarctica because of cruising. So Anita just talked about how she got to go to Alaska and Mexico on her first contract, and what was really cool is she talked about being a seasonal. So Anita, can you tell us a little bit more about like your specific position and what you did, and what other maybe like options there are on board for maybe somebody who doesn't just want to go seasonally?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So I did youth staff on board, and that's working in the children's and teens area, doing programming for them. So it was like games with the kids, activities with the kids, playing for the older kids, sports with the kids, and just like planning out a day of programming for them and making sure that they have a lot of fun on their vacation. So that was awesome. But there are so many positions on cruise ships, and pretty much if you think of like what it takes to run a hotel or a small village, really, there's all kinds of positions. Everything from like medical and healthcare, all of those positions, and then anything in hospitality, like restaurant, casino, and then there's even like photography and media. There's all of that kinds of jobs as well. There's like human resources. There's like everything that you can think of. And then a lot of things that are kind of basic jobs, like if you think of entry-level jobs on land, like working at McDonald's, or even like some business administration related things, like anything like that you'll find on a cruise ship as well. So as a seasonal employee, the cool thing that I get is that I don't have to work long-term contracts. I can get offers for shorter things, and sometimes I have a little bit more flexibility on when I want to work. So I'd be like, okay, I can work like these 3 months or these 4 weeks in the summer. Is there anything available? And then if I'm available and I want to and it works out, then I just hop on a ship. But most of the people who work on ships do 6-month contracts. But it's like, I think max is 9, which is quite long, but 6 is the standard. Most people do 6 months on and then 2 months off. 6 months on and 2 months off. So for some people, they might feel like 6 months is really long. But honestly, like with the other people that I met on the ship, a lot of them would say, like, where else can you find a job where you work 6 months so you can save up a ton of money, do really incredible things, meet people from all over the world, and then have a whole 2 months off to do whatever you want, and then go back. So there's kind of pros and cons to both, but seasonal is also nice because if I started out, like I actually started out doing a 2-week contract, and then 2 weeks is quite short though, and of course then they offered me extension, and if I wanted to, I actually could have stayed on longer and longer, and done more and gone to more places as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. Okay. We've got some new people coming into the room. If you are coming in, welcome. We're just having an interview with Anita Wing Lee, who did a seasonal contract with Princess Cruises. I'm Amanda, Cruise Employment Specialist. So we're just kind of talking deets when it comes to that. So we talked a little bit about the job, and then obviously some of the benefits like the travel, you'll be able to save some money, meet and work with people from around the world. What were sort of maybe like the top 3 challenges that you found working on a cruise ship? Because for those of you that are in the room, if you've done any research on it, you know, there's a lot of like pros, cons that you find online, but I really want to hear it from Anita direct regarding her, I guess, really over a month of experience on board.
Yeah, so it's actually really easy to talk about the cons. And so I also want to make sure, I'm sure we'll also talk about the pros, and the pros are easy to find, but I don't want to scare anyone away from this because it is a really amazing experience, but it's not necessarily easy. But it's like anything in life. If you're going to have a negative attitude and feel like life is difficult and I'm just going to like do the bare minimum to survive, you can take that same attitude on a cruise ship and have a really bad and make your experience worse. Or you can have an attitude of I'm going to make the most that I can, meet incredible people, just like expand my horizons, be smart, be safe, then that's what you're going to get on a cruise ship as well. Mm-hmm. So in terms of cons, one thing that after a while I started to say was that I feel like I'm on a giant refrigerator on the ocean. Because as funny as it is that you're like on a cruise ship and you think you're in the middle of the ocean, well, you're in the middle of the ocean, you think you'd be surrounded by nature. You actually spend a lot of time indoors. This does depend on your position, but because I worked with the kids and on an Alaska cruise, it's a little bit colder, so we're not spending so much time outdoors, playing outdoors. Like you spend a lot of time indoors, and personally, I'm someone who loves the outdoors and being able to spend time, like going for walks in nature, and not having that after a while definitely got to me. Having said that, though, you do get port time off. So most positions, you get time where you can, when the ship stops somewhere, you can get off the ship and go and explore and get fresh air. So, and the other thing is like pretty much everywhere you stop, you're in a different place. Like you could be in Rome one day and then Venice another day, and that doesn't happen if you're just going for walks in your neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So a second con would be that you don't really get weekends, and you don't really get time to yourself. Like most people who work a job, the reason that people love weekends is because it's the time where they get to do what they want to do, right? They can be themselves, they can wear whatever they want, they just get to be them. On a cruise, there isn't really any weekend because people who are on vacation don't stop taking vacations. And the cruise ships run route after route. So if it's a 4-day route you're on, it's like every 4 days there's a new batch of people, or every 7 days there's a new batch of people. And there's no day off where you really get to wear what you want and hang out and do whatever you want. So that was one thing it took some adjusting to. And sort of the same thing applies. Like you do get port time off, and those, on good days it was like I would work 3 hours a day, and then the rest of the time I'd get off and I'd get to explore the city. So in exchange for not having weekends, you learn to make up for it on your own by finding your pockets. It does take some discipline. Like when you've got time off, in between shifts or something like that, you could do something that makes you happy. Like for me personally, it'd be something as simple as like reading a book and hanging out on my own versus hanging out with the crew and the same people that you hang out with all the time. So kind of like having that discipline to make your own weekends and make your own time off is important to make up for the fact that like ship life isn't going to do it for you, because ship life will kind of keep you in its own little ship life bubble for the rest of the time. The last con is like both a con and a pro, is the food. So the thing with a cruise ship is like, yeah, you never have to cook. The food is always really good. And then depending on your position, you also get access to like the buffets that passengers can eat from, and you would just eat it at like different hours. But that's pretty much the ship's very best food. But the thing is, sometimes we would eat at really odd hours in order to get the better food. And then I also found that people tended to like complain about the food, like, oh, there's nothing good today. And this is again one of those mentality things. Because sometimes it was like, oh, I don't know what this is. Like, when food is mass produced, you don't really know what this is. And maybe it's not that good. But at the same time, it was like I never had to cook. I had food from like every food group, fresh. Like every time I ate, there was enough food there for like 5 meals. You had to pick what you wanted to eat. So definitely, it also takes discipline to not stuff your face and gain 20 pounds from all of the really good food. But if you, like, when else in your life are you going to get to eat from buffets and basically eat restaurant food all the time, every day, every meal, served to you too, so you never have to cook. So that was a really awesome thing, but like, I didn't want to like leave the ship 20 pounds heavier, so I had to like learn to practice discipline. So that's why it was kind of a disadvantage after a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's all some new people coming into the room. So welcome guys. If you are new, my name's Amanda. I'm a cruise ship employment specialist. I worked on ships for over a decade, and now I operate my own company called getalifeatsea.com, and the link is in my bio. If you are interested in cruise ship employment, make sure you follow me if you don't already, right there. And if you don't already follow Anita, make sure you do too. We're here interviewing her today on her experience working with Princess Cruises. And she's talked a little bit about some of the cons, and we've kind of touched on some of the benefits too, like getting paid to travel the world, obviously, and being able to save money because you don't have a lot of expenses on board, and not having to cook. I mean, that's something I totally miss. Having worked on board for a decade, pretty much my entire 20s and then some, I am not what I would call a good cook now, and I still don't like it because I guess I got a bit spoiled during that decade on board. But we talked about a couple benefits. What are like a couple of more huge benefits that you would, and guys, thanks for your questions. We will be taking those too in just a little bit, so keep them up. What would be, say, like another benefit that you were like kind of wowed by being able to work on board? Like, I know I saw even from your Instagram photos, if you guys follow Anita on Instagram, there are some pretty cool things that you got to do during your port time. Did you want to talk a little bit about that?
Good memories. Okay, so one really cool thing is you do meet people from all around the world. Like, I worked with girls from Honduras, Brazil, South Africa, all across America and Canada, and then that was like Philippines. My manager was from the Philippines, so that was like my immediate group of people I worked with. And then there were people from like literally, I think they said something, I can't remember the number, but it's a lot of countries. I think it's something like 40 countries are represented on the ship, literally all over the world. And that doesn't happen every day. And if you're someone who's brand new to traveling, you're not used to meeting people from all around the world, this is a really cool thing. I was a little bit more used to it because I've been to a lot of places, but it was still really awesome to like, literally you'd be riding in an elevator and everyone's got their name tag on that says which country they're from, and like everyone's from a different place. And so you get to make amazing friends that you could go back and visit. Like, now I've got friends in all these places that if I ever wanted to visit, I could. And then, you know, you could also learn new languages, because like the Spanish girls are always trying to practice their Spanish with each other because they didn't get to speak Spanish on board. So there's things like that that are really cool. Another advantage is you also get the opportunity to be an escort for excursions. So this is a really cool thing that I knew about because Amanda told me about it. So like by week 2 on board, I was like, she was like, wait, this is what you have to do to get an excursion. So it was really awesome. Whereas most people, it takes them a little while to figure out the excursions and how it works. I just like dove right in. So to be an escort for an excursion means that you basically fill empty spots when there is an excursion going on. So every time a ship stops at port, passengers pay anywhere from $20 to $300 to go on different excursions, like dog sledding. And in Alaska, it was ATVing. There was like canoe rides. There was helicopter rides. You don't really get to go on the helicopter rides for free, but maybe one day. But so I got to do some of those for free. And the way you get it, you just like fill out a book. Amanda will tell you all about that when you get on board, when that time comes. But I got to do tours that people paid like hundreds of dollars for free. And this was like on my off time. So for example, I would wake up, maybe work 2-3 hours, and we'd land. And then let's say if I had that afternoon off, I would just like change into my clothes, go and get on this bus, and then I got taken to really cool places. I got to do one ATVing tour. I think there's a picture of it on my Instagram if you scroll through. And we rode these little like ATV dune buggies through the mountains, and then I would like change back into my clothes, go back on ship, and get paid for it. Like, that doesn't happen every day. So getting to do really cool stuff like that was awesome.
Yeah.
And another, I think, those are probably like my 2 main pros. If I had another pro, I was going to say you told me to think about what to wear. You just wear the same thing every day. Yeah. And again, this kind of stuff might not be what you want to do for the rest of your life, but it's definitely a great way just to experience a different kind of life, right? And to get out of your current bubble and like expand your horizons. So those are probably some of my favorite things. I think at the end of the day, just just being able to save up money, because I wasn't there for a long, so I didn't save up as much as some people, but some of the other girls would leave their contracts with like $6,000 saved up. And the money that I had saved up, I realized when I was just in America, when I was just in Hawaii last month, and for the last 3 months of the summer, I was spending money that I had saved up from my time working on a cruise ship. And that's when it kind of like really clued in, because people often ask me, how do you pay for your travels? And like, I pay for them kind of the same way anyone does. Like, I ultimately exchange my talents and my skills and my time doing things for other people, whether it's like self-employed and my own creations, or like working on a cruise ship was one way. And I had like American dollars saved up from that I hadn't spent yet, and I ended up spending them in Hawaii. So it all cycles through. It all comes around. So yeah, that's a definite plus.
Coming up, somebody did ask, what does like a tour escort do? Obviously there are main tour guides, but a crew escort is sort of just there on the tour to provide an extra representation. If something happens during the tour and a guest, say, needs to return back to the ship or something like that, the crew escort will take them back. It happens very, very rarely, so for the most part, you're just kind of getting a free tour, and it is so amazing. So Anita just talked about like some of her tours she got to do during my 10 years on board. It was crazy. I got to go parasailing, wine tours in Tuscany, dog sledding in Alaska, Blue Lagoon in Iceland, Russian Palace. Like, I literally can't tell you how many tours that I got to do for free as a crew member, because there were so many. And these, as Anita said, are tours that passengers are paying a ton of money for. And speaking of money, as Anita said, like, even though she wasn't on this summer, she was actually on board the summer prior, she still was using some of her money for her recent trip in Hawaii that came from her direct work with the cruise ships. And I know for me, I started working seasonally like Anita as youth staff at the beginning of my 10 years, but my first full-time year working on board a cruise ship, so that was like year 4 or 5, when I got promoted to onboard crew trainer, I paid off over $35,000 in student loan debt in 1 year. And I still had money left over, and I had no expenses because I was working on board. So the money, the travel, all that, huge benefits. We're going to be taking questions really soon, but I did want to ask Anita one more question, because she talked a little bit about, at the beginning of this interview, about how she, like way back, like years ago, she kind of started researching a little bit about cruise ship jobs. And there's just a lot of information if you start Googling this, guys. And there's, like, as Anita said, like, there's scam information, there's like bad information, it's hard to figure out what's actually valid. And so she kind of leaned away from that and went into doing the teaching English thing initially. But my question for you, Anita, because I know, like, way back when, like, we're obviously friends, but we kind of exchanged services a bit, and Anita got some coaching from me, like, with regards to, like, moving forward with her process with Princess and things like that. Do you feel, Anita, that that's something that would benefit someone looking to get into this industry, like working with, say, somebody like myself or a company like Get a Life at Sea with regards to, like, employment coaching and, like, getting your resume tweaked and, like, knowing where to go? Do you wish that maybe when you'd first started researching it, that there was someone out there like that, like me, for example?
OMG. Yes! Amanda already knows this. It's just not for me to say any of this, because when Amanda and I first met, we actually connected because I was like blogging about how to get paid to travel and sharing my journey traveling, and then I heard that she helps people find cruise ship jobs, and we Skyped, and I was like, Amanda, you need to put this out there, because if I had known this when I started, I definitely would have been working on cruise ships earlier, because there's so much sketchy information out there, and I feel like what you do, Amanda, is like a godsend for people. And everyone who gets to hear about you and like work with you is really, really lucky, because there are honestly so many scams online. Like, it's really sketchy, and it's like, if you already hear that something's sketchy, why would you go to another website and try and like hope that it's not a scam, right? And so now that I know how it actually works, because like Amanda has been doing this, like this is her life. Some of you may or may not know, she like pretty much grew up on cruise ships. So this is also what her family does, let alone worked on them herself when she got older and got to make her own decisions too. But like Amanda has actually done it, and there's actually a way it works. The reason that there are so many scams is because there are people in other countries that really want to work on cruise ships, because like you're paid in American dollars or let's say Australian dollars, and for someone in Philippines, for example, that's a lot of money. So there are some people who really, really want these jobs, not just because it's cool to get paid to travel, but because it means even more to them. And so there's a lot of companies that are willing to take advantage of that, and they charge you for that. And anytime that you have to pay to get a job, I would be like, ding, 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 like that's a red flag, right? And that's what a lot of these companies say that they do. So when I met Amanda and I was like, okay, she's actually done this. And again, like we were just friends for a while, and I was like supporting her, and I'm still telling her to finish up her course so she can help more people find cruise ship jobs. Like it's so helpful because she actually told me how it works. And now when people, like I actually willingly tell people, when people tell me they want to like travel and they want to travel more, and like I ask them if they want to find a job on a cruise ship, and like everyone says yes, and then I always tell them to go and check out my friend Amanda, Get a Life at Sea. And that's not because she pays me or anything, but because I know there's so much sketchy information out there, and people want to do this, and like I think that like honestly everyone can get a job on a cruise ship. Maybe not immediately, but you can definitely get it at some point in your life, and it's totally worth the experience. Like, if you took a year off of your life, and you knew that at the end of it, you'd have 10 grand saved up, and you would have visited at least 10 countries. Like, that's what I said, guaranteed if you work on a cruise ship for a year. But you just need access to the right information to how to get these jobs. Like, that is gold, and that's what Amanda provides. And, like, now when people ask me how I did it, like, I know that there's, like, cruise ships don't just hire people. You can't just apply to them. You can't just go to princesscruises.com and be like, I want to work as a chef. I've been a chef for this number of years. No, there's, like, quite a filtering process that they have, working with hiring agencies to find the people, because think about it, cruise ships hire from, like, 40 different countries, and they're filtering people from all of these places. So they don't filter all those applications. They rely on agencies and then knowing who those are, like the right ones too, versus just like all the scammy ones that are pretending to be. So there's a lot more to it, and it's not done that way to make it hard for people. It's just the way cruise ships do it, because it's worked for them, because it's easier for them to work with agencies than to filter like tens of thousands of people wanting to be chefs. And for me personally, like the reason I'm an advocate of travel, even though happiness is a state of mind and always a state of mind first, like the reason I'm an advocate of travel is because like in that journey of going out into the world and meeting all these incredible people, you're going to find and learn more about yourself than you ever thought possible. You're going to find more courage, more resilience, more strength, just more character within yourself. And cruise ships is one of like the best ways to do it. So definitely, like I personally am so grateful that Amanda is my friend. And if any of you, if you're watching this and you're listening, you've ever wanted to, like consider it a huge wink from the universe, because not everyone gets access to this kind of information. A lot of people want to work on cruise ships in their lives, but they never find an open door to the information that will get them the right thing, right? It's not everyone that's going to realize that like here's someone who's actually not scamming, who does this and has genuinely helped people, who can help get you an opportunity on board a ship that will open up a whole new world for you. So definitely, if I hadn't met Amanda and I didn't know Amanda, I would never have done it, because I just gave up on it. I was like, I'm not dealing with this scammy stuff. But then, of course, the lovely universe brought me Amanda so that I got to do it, so that I can share it with you guys as well.
Well, thank you so much. That's so sweet to hear. And you know, it's funny too, like even people, I've had emails from people that have just gone to my YouTube channel. So do check out my YouTube channel, because I have a ton of just cruise ship employment videos there, and I do repurpose some of my scopes there. But I've had people that have emailed me saying, I got a job from watching your videos on YouTube. Like they haven't paid for any of my resume services or consulting or anything like that. They've just watched my videos. So that's a great place to start. Check out the YouTube channel. And yeah, so I know we've got some questions coming in, guys. For those of you that have hung on, that's awesome. Make sure you follow me if you don't already for cruise ship employment info. But let me know, we had a couple of questions. Anita's popping in. I think somebody asked us both what was sort of the most vibrant memory from when we were on board. So I'll start and I'll pass it to Anita. For me, my last 3 years of my 10 years on board, I worked with P&O Australia, and we did a lot of the South Pacific Pacific. I loved it because we went to a lot of remote islands in like Vanuatu and Fiji, and just places where big ships and like lots of tourists don't often get to go. And I was able to watch the land divers, which is sort of like a traditional Vanuatu tribal rite of passage for young men. YouTube it, it's crazy. Basically, these guys jump off bamboo scaffolding like 60 feet up in the air with just vines attached to their feet. It's crazy. It's how actually bungee jumping came to be. It was kind of stolen from like that tribal practice in essence. So to see it was epic. It's probably one of the things I remember the most during my 10 years on board. But I'm going to pass it to Anita. What was your most memorable experience when you worked on board?
My experience is not as awesome as Amanda's, I would say. Because I was like on cruise ships long enough. I wish to get to experience as much crazy stuff like this. I did do some really cool stuff in Alaska, but honestly, I think my most vibrant memory and like vivid memory, one of those moments where I was like, yes, I'm never stopping this journey, was just actually probably like every time on my work shifts. So when the weather was warm enough, because we were on an Alaska cruise, so we didn't always go outside, but once in a while we would go outside if the weather was warm. We'd take all their kids out, and they would ride on their little bicycles on the kid play area, and I would also ride on a bicycle because the staff, we get to just play with the kids. So I'm riding on this little plastic bicycle. Imagine that, surrounded by like 10 8-year-olds and 6-year-olds that are just like on these little bicycles driving like crazy. And the walls are all window. And on the other side of the window is the ocean. And then you can see the fjords that go on for like miles and miles and miles. And like this epic coastline. And, you know, like snow-peaked mountains, and it was so beautiful. And I was just like, this is my life. Like this is my office. My office right now is riding this bike with these little kids, and I'm like at one of the most beautiful places in the world that very few people get to see, and I'm getting paid for it, and like this is my life. And I think those little moments are my favorites, because it wasn't necessarily seeing something incredible, but it was just realizing that like this is possible. Like you don't have to spend your life in an office if you don't want to. If I wanted to work on cruise ships and play with kids for the next 5 years and see incredible places in the world, like I could. I just could keep doing that again and again and again. And so for me that was really special, just to realize that like I'm never going back. There's just so much more to see in the world, and I've only just begun.
That's awesome. I'm just gonna move my little picture of my face over so then I won't have to keep flipping. But somebody else asked, on the money that you earned on board, were you taxed on those earnings?
So this I learned from Amanda. So I'm not American, I'm Canadian. And I learned from Amanda that so the laws in Canada on money earned overseas, I don't know if it's overseas or just, you're not even overseas, you're literally like in the seas. Even for the Canadian government, it's kind of like a gray area, because if you withdraw your money, you're basically paid in cash. Otherwise, it's on this little debit card that you can only use on board. So it's actually there's a huge gray area, and the key is to find a really good accountant that knows what they're doing. But no, you're not taxed, or even if you are taxed, it's a lot less, because you're earning in another country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of my clients are American, and really in my experience, the only nationality that's automatically taxed on their earnings are American. So everyone else isn't taxed on their earnings, but it is, as Anita said, kind of up to you to figure out what your country's policies are. And in Canada, it is quite gray, because it's like you're getting paid in cash. There's no record of your earnings at all. Somebody else asked, when you first got on board, did you get seasick?
No, because cruise ships are, especially the one that I went on, like they're pretty big ships. So it's not the same as riding on a little boat and like feeling every single wave. But there would be stormy days, and then you could feel it a bit more, but you get smart at figuring out what keeps your food down and your stomach intact. Another great tip, another great reason to connect with Amanda, or just like someone who's worked on a cruise ship before. So for me, I realized that like eating bread, if I knew it was going to be a stormy day and we were going to feel the boat rock a bit more, eating bread or anything that would like absorb more of the fluids in my stomach helped, versus like having a big bowl of soup and feeling that slosh around, and ginger. So that did it for me. Most of the time when people are feeling ill, as long as I had that in the morning or during lunch, like I felt fine. And it usually doesn't last the whole time. It might be stormy for a bit, and then it'll be calm and fine, and you won't feel anything.
Awesome. So guys, we are going to take, we'll take 2 more questions for anyone who's, for all of you lovely people who are still with us. Any more questions for Anita or I about cruise ship employment? Remember, if you want more cruise ship tips, be sure to follow me if you don't already by clicking on the little Perry dude right there, or checking out my site at getalifeatsea.com. The link's in my bio. You're so welcome.
I saw a question. Yeah, I'm glad you guys are enjoying this. Make sure that if this is something you've ever wanted to explore, definitely get in touch with Amanda, or at least check out her YouTube channel and her website and all that kind of stuff. Because this is a real possibility. This doesn't just have to be like, I'm going to work in the same job for the next 3 years. If you've ever wanted to, working on a cruise ship is one of the safest ways to travel the world too, because you don't have to worry about vaccines and all that kind of stuff. Like, you're pretty much taken care of. For everyone who's ever asked me about health insurance, when you work on a cruise ship, that's taken care of, which is awesome. I did see one last question, which I can answer, which is, how do you stay fit on board? That's actually one of the challenges. Most people around me did not exercise. And then some people went to the gym. I never went to the gym because I'm not really a gym person, but from what I heard from the gym. Now, this can vary from ship to ship, but the ship that I was on, apparently the gym was quite old and disgusting, and I didn't want to go in from what I heard anyway. So, there is like, let's see, there's a running ring on some ships, so you can, but I don't think that staff are allowed to run on it, if I recall correctly. I never actually ran on it, but I would go for walks on like the outside of the ship, which you're allowed to do. And then whenever I was in port, I would make a point, like especially in Alaska, it was quite easy to do hiking. There were a lot of really nice trails. So you do find kind of your way to stay fit and exercise. I will say it is a little bit more difficult. Like, I couldn't really practice yoga, but there are ways to get around it. There were fitness classes that were available just for staff. It just never fit my schedule, so I couldn't go, but I know people who did go. So there are still ways. It does take, again, it takes a little bit more discipline, but it's always good to build a little bit more discipline into your life anyway.
Yeah. It's kind of a great way to end, really. I mean, it really is about having a well-balanced life, right? It's about following your dreams, traveling, getting paid to do it, seeing the world, meeting people from around the world, but also taking good care of yourself. And when you're not having to cook for yourself, and you can kind of negotiate the crew mess, the staff mess, the passenger buffet if you have access to that, and once you kind of get a handle on that, and also take advantage of any free classes that are available for crew, and find your little area of the ship for whatever it is that you're wanting to do. Maybe get together with friends and do yoga class and things like that. It's always positive as well. So guys, thank you so much for joining, and also, of course, a huge thanks to Anita for spending time with us today to talk about her experience on board. If you guys want more info about working on a cruise ship, be sure to check out my site at getalifeatsea.com. Link is in my bio, and there's also a free Are You Ready for Life at Sea quiz, which in 30 seconds or less you can find out if working on a cruise ship is for you. So you can take that at getalifeatsea.com/cruise ship quiz, and the link for that is also in my bio and on the homepage of my site. So yeah, any last sort of like words of wisdom for everyone, Anita, in this whole adventure for me to get paid to travel?
I think I would say, if this is ever something you've been curious about, right? Like, how could I get a job on a cruise ship, and what would it be like? Now you know a little bit more information. Definitely explore it. Again, maybe it's not like quite the thing for you right now in your life, but there are also people who are like 50, 60, who still got jobs on cruise ships, even working as youth staff, because they just wanted to give it a shot and to try it. And it will really open up your mind and give you a brand new experience, and you won't be the same person again. I mean, you're never the same person after you travel. But I think it's something that like everyone should try. Like I say, everyone I think should do a silent meditation course at one point in their life. Everyone should visit Paris at some point in their life if you can. And everyone should at least explore and even work on a cruise ship if you can, because it's once you have the right information, which Amanda can give you, like, it's honestly not that hard to get a job on a cruise ship, and it's so awesome. It's like, if you're gonna go on an all-inclusive vacation to Mexico, why don't you just look into doing it full time for a while and really like realize what more you can do, what else you can do with your life too beyond what you're currently living. So it's awesome.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, guys. We're gonna love you and leave you, but we will see you again shortly, and have a wonderful Sunday. So thanks so much.
Love you guys. And I'll add, if any of you want to check out what I do, I also help people get paid to travel, not just with cruise ships, but in all kinds of different ways, and I share that journey. Just check out my website, AnitaWingLee.com, or look me up on Instagram, Periscope, or YouTube. Same name everywhere, and I'm happy to help.
Awesome.
Love you guys.
Bye, guys.